Hi, I'm Heidi. I'm the founder of the Nest Kids CPR Analogy, and today we're going to talk about asthma in small children, especially toddlers. So asthma isn't always diagnosed very easily under the age of 5. It used to be under the age of 2, but under the age of 5, because children have so many respiratory illnesses, and many of them require medication, and especially salbutamol, which as we know as an asthma puffer. But the thing is that we don't need to label these children with actual asthma until we sort of have enough evidence that it actually is asthma, because then once they're labelled with it, they may be stuck with that their whole lives, and actually all they had was a lot of respiratory illnesses as a small child. That can affect, job prospects in the future and things like that. So we want to make sure that we're managing the viral episodes properly, but we don't necessarily want to label them with asthma until it's really actually, proven to be. So asthma is it's a chronic illness in the lungs. Okay, so when a child is diagnosed with asthma, what happens with asthma is threefold. So the airways become swollen and irritated, and so when an airway becomes swollen, it obviously gets smaller, the air entry is less. They also get lots of mucus production within the airway, so that compromises the airflow as well. And also there's a smooth muscle that's wrapped around the outside of the airway, and that constricts and gets tighter. Okay, so those three things obviously make the airflow really compromised. And so this may just be mild, where they might just have a mild wheeze, but they're otherwise okay. They can get that with a viral illness. It doesn't necessarily mean they're having an asthma attack. Obviously the severe symptoms that they get when they're like a loud wheeze, or sometimes there's no noise at all, persistent coughing, sometimes blue tinged around the lips, really working hard breathing. So this part of the neck here will suck in, and also just where the rib cages meet right in the middle up here, they can suck in there as well. And that is a sign that they're having trouble breathing, and that they're really having to use their abdominal muscles to get that airway in. So that is what you would call an acute wheezy episode. And if they are diagnosed with asthma, this is where we need to act. Now, I'm a paediatric nurse of nearly 23 years, and I have dealt with many asthma cases, and children do not always react to the way that you want them to react. They don't always sit quietly and let you just plonk the spacer on and give them the medication. So sometimes it can be a bit difficult to give a child the spacer, but that's why it's a really good idea to let them play with it, get them used to it, and practice that position, so that if you do have to do this in an emergency, then at least you know how you're going to hold your child. And it's the same as a really good position is the same as sort of when you're given an EpiPen, is having the child sideways on your lap and having your arm sort of around them and holding on to one arm and having the other arm through the back of, through to your back. And that's quite a good position. And then you've sort of got their head in the crook of your neck, and you can give the spacer from here. It's not easy, but it's good to be able to practice that and make sure your child is comfortable with the spacer. They may not become comfortable with the spacer. Every child is different. But if they are really screaming and carrying on, we still need to give that medication. And actually the screaming and carrying on is a good thing, because it means they've got that air in their lungs to be able to do that. So if a child has any of the symptoms below the severe symptoms, the wheeze, the persistent cough, the not being able to form a sentence, maybe if they're young enough, they won't be able to actually, talk a sentence anyway, but they might be tinged blue around the nips, they might be a bit floppy and very lethargic, they may have that sucking in. So any of the symptoms that are in the blog post below, we need to give them asthma first aid. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is get our asthma and our spacer. If we don't have this medication, we need to just call the ambulance if a child is in respiratory distress. Okay, if they have asthma, we're going to follow our action plan. It's going to tell you to do 4-4-4. Okay, so the first thing we do is put the spacer on, we shake the blue inhaler, and we do 1 puff into the spacer, and we want the child to do 4 breaths. Okay, so that's the first 4 breaths in and out. We're going to continue to do 4 puffs. Okay, so 4 breaths in and out between each puff. So we're doing a total of 4 puffs and 16 breaths in and out. All right, we're then going to wait 4 minutes. And if the symptoms are the same or worse, we're going to continue and do that again until the ambulance arrives. Okay, we're just going to continue. Okay, when your child is in respiratory distress like that, you're not going to overdose them on the salbutamol. I was just about to say that salbutamol actually kind of mimics adrenaline in the way that it opens things up, opens up airways and arteries and things. So that's why sometimes their heart can go really, really fast. There are two common medications that treat asthma in children. One is the salbutamol inhaler, which is the blue one, sometimes called Ventolin. And the other ones, there's lots of different ones, but they're called preventative inhalers, and they treat, like, you take them sort of long term, you take them every day, so they build up, and they prevent the symptoms from coming in the first place. So they treat the triggers and things. So then hopefully the child won't need the blue inhaler at all, or maybe just, you know, now and again. So asthma can be triggered by all sorts of things: pollens, pets, exercise, you know, all sorts of things like that. But the moral of the story is always give the Ventolin if needed. And if the child is showing any severe symptoms, always call an ambulance. Okay, so if the child stops breathing at any point, we start CPR straight away. All right, I hope this is helpful. You know where we are. You can always message us through the website or through our socials at any time. Take care.